We turn now to the topic of political correctness and the fight to protect free speech in America. I'm joined by Luther Campbell, also known as Uncle Luke, musical entrepreneur, the former frontman and manager for the controversial rap group 2 Live Crew. His early hip-hop material took him to the height of fame, but it also brought him a lot of trouble with obscenity laws and some politicians, and eventually even led him to the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court. It's all documented in a terrific new memoir, The Book of Luke, My Fight for Truth, Justice, and Liberty City. You see its cover. The book is out now and available everywhere. What led you to write it, Luther?
Well, Larry, I thought it was time, after 25 years of being in the music business, and nobody, I've always said myself, I was like, I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of the music business. So, nobody was going to give me any credit for anything. So I felt like it was time to do a book and do it myself.
It's been 25 years since your first arrest on charges of public obscenity for performing material from 2 Live Crews as nasty as they want to be. Now, scarcely a week goes by that someone in the public eye isn't embroiled in controversy for something they've said or tweeted or sung or written about. Have we come far or have we gone backwards?
Well, I think we've came a long way, and when you mentioned the case of me going to the Supreme Court, people are using that case right now for intellectual property cases. I think we've, back then it was shocking. Right now it's not as shocking as it is right now. But then at the end of the day, we live in this new social media world, and it's kind of, if you say something on social media, it's gonna travel with you for the rest of your life. How
many times were you arrested for performing material?
Well, I was arrested in Hollywood, Florida, after the federal judge Gonzalez deemed my album obscene. I said, look, this is not American, and I talk about it in the book. And I said, hey, look, I'm gonna go and perform right around the corner from the courthouse. Total of about maybe 4 times, along with other record clerks going to jail for selling the records.
A U.S. district judge declared that material obscene, right?
Yes, federal judge Gonzalez, and thank God that we went and got that overturned on appeal, because if we didn't, then it would have been case law, and that case law would have still been on the books, and you probably wouldn't hear about rappers like Drake and NWA and all the other artists, because they would have been getting their records pulled off the shelf as well right now today.
After that ruling, it was the true record store owners and clerks were arrested for selling the album.
Yes, and I talk about it in the book. I mean, you have clerks in Florida, police would go in and put them in jail. Same thing in San Antonio. We've heard of people getting put in jail all the way up into Birmingham, Alabama.
You write in the book that you think that your race had a lot to do with the obscenity charges, that you were a black man who was independent and wealthy, and you could speak on your own. You were a free black man, that nobody owned you. And you said you realized that drove the white conservatives crazy.
Yeah, when as I was going through these different trials and tribulations and going to jail and being persecuted and told I was the worst thing since the Antichrist, what I looked at was the things that was in the public. You already had Playboy, you already had Penthouse, you already had Andrew Dice Clay and other types of material. You had, strip clubs and nightclubs and different things like that. So I was like, well, why are they messing with me, this little independently owned black entrepreneur? And then, as I talk about in the book, which I learned from my uncle and my dad, it was like, in this world today, when you own your own business, you're gonna have to go through so many different struggles, and this was one of the struggles that they had told me I was going to have to go through because I was independent, and so I knew what I was getting up against, owning my own company, and I was well prepared for it.
Is it true that most of the fans of 2 Live Crew were white?
Oh, exactly. Most of the fans are white. And at that period of time, hip-hop was making this this crossover appeal. You had Run DMC and you had, Sugar Hill Gang, and then it became Two Live Crew. And so when, we started getting all these different fans, then Tipper Gore, Al Gore's wife, came after us with her group, the PMRC, and they ended up putting us on some lists with a bunch of other rap artists and rock and roll artists. And before you know it, we became public enemy #1.
Is there a Two Live Crew now?
Yes, there is. 2 members, they perform as Two Live Crew around the country. And I've been solo for the last 23 years. And, lately I've done a couple of dates with them. I probably got one more date with them I'm going to do. And that's about it. I perform on my own. I run my own record company. And, we've been doing good since then.
The parental advisory warning, a sticker for explicit lyrics, was your idea. Why?
Well, it was my idea because, originally when we started doing the adult versions of the record, it was never intended for kids to get the music. And when parents start complaining and start sending me letters saying kids are getting these adult-oriented records, then I said, okay, well, let me just figure out something. So I basically took the idea from the movie industry when they put a parental advisory sticker on kids under 17 or over 17 can either look at a movie. I just took that whole concept and ideal, and then I created this sticker, and that's something that I talk about in the book because, nobody ever give me credit for that. Nobody ever gave me credit for creating hip hop in the South. Start my own independent company and having artists on it. So, the book is a great read, and I think people learn a lot about Miami as well, in the book.
Most of your legal victories you won, right?
Oh, yeah, most of them. Only one I didn't win was the one against George Lucas, because at that time, those organizations that Tipper Gore was running, she would then send letters to different people that, any kind of way affiliated with me. And at that time, my name was Luke Skywalker. So obviously they sent a letter to George Lucas saying, why you allow him to use that name? And so he eventually sued me, and I ended up paying him $500,000. And to this day right now, I don't look at none of his films.
You said that while you were fighting against censorship, the championing rap as a legitimate music genre, that the industry, and in particular the rap and hip-hop community, didn't publicly support you. Why?
Yeah.
Why not?
They didn't support me for a combination of a couple of reasons. One, back then, it was a territorial thing. New York artists just felt like nobody else from outside of New York should be even thinking about rapping. So those guys didn't support us. They would go on television shows saying that this is not considered hip hop. And, guys in the industry, because I wasn't affiliated with a major record company, and I talk about in the book, I manufactured these records myself, and put them out myself, out of the trunk of my car. So not being affiliated with any major record label who had all these different artists on it, and on top of it, artists that were so territorial, they didn't support what we were doing. And it was some rough times. Even doing shows with those guys were rough. And we talk about it in the book, and I think, like I say, people are so amazed as to what they're reading right now because they didn't know things existed like that at that time.
You've been called Rap's Larry Flint. I know Larry very well, and I recently interviewed him here on this show. He said the First Amendment is only important if something is offensive. If it's not offensive, you don't need a law to protect it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I mean, one thing, in going through all these cases with my lawyer, Bruce Rogo, I learned a lot. And I learned about the Miller test and, the test that defines whether anything should be deemed obscene or whatever is offensive, in the public eye. And when you use that 3-prong test, it clearly explains that, if this is offensive, then it's offensive to others, and these are things that shouldn't be in the public eye. But, talking about sex is not really, in my opinion, offensive. If anybody's offended by that, then they need to check and see how they even got on this earth.
You also have to protect, though, the right of the Ku Klux Klan to speak.
Yeah, they have free speech. And I've always said this, whether or not I agree with some of the lyrics of some of the artists, some of the lyrics of some of the other members of the 2 Live Crew, I defended their right. I wrote my own part of the music, and the things that I wrote, I hold myself accountable for the things that I wrote. But, we live in a free country. And unless we want to be a communist country, like some of the other countries that we talk about on a consistent basis on the daily news, then we need to just, freedom for all and to each his own.
You said you think that Donald Trump's popularity in the primary so far is due in part to his speaking his mind out.
Yes. I said that in an interview the other day, and I think, people right now today are just fed up with regular politicians. They just want somebody who's going to speak their mind. And also, the masses amount of people, they want people who are not owned by special interest groups, because when I talk to politicians every day, when I'm advocating on things that affect the community, a lot of these guys have the right ideal, but if they're owned by some conglomerate or some special interest group, then they can't speak on those things. And with Trump being a guy that owns himself, and he doesn't have to worry about, a donor, then he could speak his mind, and I think people are gravitating to that.
What do you think of your fellow Floridians, Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, and how well or not well they're doing?
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, when you see a guy like Trump in the race and he's able to speak and say what he wants to say when he wants to say it, and these guys have to be politically correct, I think it's to a disadvantage. Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, they're okay guys, but again, they can't say what they really want to say and do what they really want to do, and I don't think they're gonna end up doing well because just because of that, because they have a guy in the race that is he's shooting with every gun he has, and those guys can't shoot with a gun.
At times, though, you've been critical of the Democratic Party as well, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I always look at the Democratic Party as a party that, supposed to be for African Americans and people who are underserved. And I just, I don't get it when I look at the politics and I look at gubernatorial races. I don't see the Democratic Party supporting any gubernatorial races. I don't see the Democratic Party even supporting a candidate to get into the United States Senate. And in Congress, the Democratic Party, those folks are from the municipalities in which they live in, so that's a no-brainer. Those African Americans are going to get into those seats as well as the Latinos. So I basically don't really see what the Democratic Party is doing for African Americans, Latinos, and poor white people. That's why I keep telling people we need to do like the Tea Parties and start our own party, the Hip Hop Party. We'll let you be the chairman, Larry.
Is there any candidate you're supporting?
Right now, I'm just so up in the air right now, as to who I want to support. I'm gonna just let it all play out, and at the end, when the last two are standing, then I'll make a decision as to who I want to support. But that I'm telling you, Trump is more affiliated with hip hop artists than people know. If you go back and have your guys do the research, you'll see Trump appeared on maybe 3 or 4 records, as well as rappers rapping about him. So that's a card that he hasn't pulled out yet, and I'm just telling you, he's going to eventually pull that card out.
Hey, Luke, it sounds like you're leaning towards supporting him.
Hey, Larry, I really want to support you. I don't know why you haven't ran yet.
You write a column.
You're a Miami guy and everything. I want to support you.
You write a column for the Miami New Times. In one of the recent pieces, you wrote, "The stop snitching culture must end before Black Lives Matter protests can win." What do you mean?
Well, what I mean by that, I love what the young people at Black Lives Matter is all about. But at the same time, if you really are all about black lives and not just Black Lives Matter when it becomes a white police officer killing an innocent black person. You know, we have more black on black murders than anything. I want to see these people get involved in that. You know, I want to see them say Black Lives Matter, even when it's another African American killing another African American. I want to see Black Lives Matter get involved in taking away this word, stop snitching. You know, because that is, you know, what's holding this community back. Our community, whether it's here in Miami, where we have tons of murders between black on black crimes, or whether it's in Chicago, Detroit, or New York. I want to see if Black lives does matter, it should matter for all different situations and not just when a white police officer kills a black person.
Luther, I thank you so much. Great having you with us.
Thank you, Larry.